Timothy Smith was described as an inspiring spirit. He was a 59-year-old gay rights activist, director of an assisted living center, and once served as the executive chair for the Ocala Florida Walk to End Alzheimer's. When he wasn't serving his community in quite possibly the most heartwarming way, he was performing as a drag queen named Augusta Wind. He was a beloved member of his community, had a servant's heart, and was always consistent. So when he didn't show up to work on March 24th, 2003, his coworkers became concerned, and when no one could reach him at all that day, they called the police to conduct a welfare check on him. And to the community's dismay, Timothy Smith would be found violently murdered. So what happened to Timothy that day? Well, today we are going to dive into all the facts that we currently know about this ongoing case. It's time to open a window and let the fresh air in. Hi everyone, welcome if you're new and welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Erin and I am fascinated by all things cults, true crime, and spiritual practices. On True Crime Tuesdays, I explore a true crime case, and on Spiritual Saturdays, I like to take a look at a cult or extreme religion that I find interesting. And I'll be giving you a bonus third video on Thursdays this November and December, so stick around for that if you're interested, and please consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. I would really love to have you here. And of course, I'm open to suggestions, so if there's a case or a cult you'd like a video about, please leave a comment down below and I'll take a look at it. I also like to recommend a book at the beginning of my videos. Today's book is called The Silent Patient, and I've talked about it before, but it is just that good. There's a murder, of course, because that's all I like to consume is scary stuff, apparently. And there's a lot of mystery surrounding the murder, and there's a woman who may or may not be involved in the murder who just refuses to speak. So this is written from this psychiatrist's point of view to try to get all of the information from this silent patient. So please make sure to go check this book out. I highly, highly recommend it. So let's jump right into this case. Now, it is currently an open investigation, and although I love to speculate wildly, out of respect for Timothy, his family, and the investigators, I'll refrain from doing so and try to only provide the facts as we know them, but there might be some of my opinions sprinkled in, so please just be aware of that. When news broke that Timothy Smith didn't show up to work on March 24th, 2023, the tight-knit community in Ocala, Florida became concerned. Timothy was a beloved member of this community, always looking to improve himself and the lives of those around him. That very day, friends of his and his husband, Herbert Swilley, began searching for him. Everyone was concerned, especially his sister, who would later share that they had just lost their mother a few months prior, and the idea of losing Timothy as well was just absolutely devastating to her. When they weren't able to find Timothy anywhere, the cops were called to conduct a welfare check on him the following day on March 25th, 2023, at an apartment in the Citrus Park neighborhood. Fears would become a reality when Timothy's body was found strangled and badly beaten in both his face and groin regions. Questions immediately began circulating throughout the community. Who would do this? And to a man described as inspiring, and who, quote, brought love and life to everyone he touched, unquote. Since he was obviously the closest person to him and potentially the last person to see him, Timothy's husband, Herbert, was brought in for questioning and seemingly cooperated with the police. He answered their questions to the best of his ability, even though he was grieving the loss of his beloved husband. Herbert wanted to send his husband into the afterlife right away. So soon after the murder, he set up a GoFundMe asking for members of his community to pitch in so he could put on a beautiful memorial service for his lost husband. In April, he had raised over $2,200 for this memorial. During the same time, the victim's good friend, Candy Baker, would begin to grow suspicious of Herbert. Candy and Timothy had been extremely close friends, so she'd gotten to know Herbert as well over the years. A few days after Timothy's death, Candy went to visit Herbert and asked him how he had slept. Herbert replied, like a baby. And ever since, Candy had been suspicious of Herbert. And I don't blame her. What a thing to say after your spouse has been found brutally murdered. I honestly don't know how anyone could sleep soundly knowing that their loved one, let alone their husband, was just found dead days before. I feel like I wouldn't be able to sleep for weeks if this had happened to me. Allegedly, Herbert wasn't actually the best husband. According to recent anecdotes, he had a history of hurting Timothy, and it's alleged that Timothy was looking for a way out, and he had actually found one. According to the media, which I've linked in the description of this video if you'd like to take a better look, Timothy had recently received a job offer that would take him out of the country, and Herbert didn't want him to go. Could this have been the motive for Herbert? Was Timothy the breadwinner in their relationship, and did this new opportunity mean that the relationship was over and thus Herbert's free ride was over too? A motive has not been specifically determined in this case, but it's something I can't help but speculate a little bit about. Perhaps Herbert was so angered about losing control over Timothy and his money that this led to driving him to murder his own husband. But I suppose only time will tell. Throughout this past summer of 2023, the investigation progressed and some dark discoveries were made. Investigators learned that Timothy had been sedated with a drug called diphenhydramine, an antihistamine commonly found in Benadryl. He had over 30 times the appropriate dose in his system. They began to theorize that Herbert drugged Timothy, then strangled him to death in their home, putting so much pressure on him that he broke Timothy's cervical spine. Investigators alleged that he then drove Timothy's body to the apartment he was found in, which has been described as an apartment the couple maintained together, and it was there that he staged the crime scene. He even went so far as to drive back to his home, then brought Timothy's car back to the apartment to leave it there to make it look like that's where he had been murdered and that Timothy had voluntarily driven himself there. But then this question pops up, how did he get back home? Did he walk, or perhaps did he have an accomplice? Soon after, he or they allegedly destroyed evidence by going to a landfill where they dumped two carpets, and then they went home to delete the ring camera evidence that could have potentially linked him, Herbert, to this crime. Which, if you were planning this elaborate murder, why wouldn't you just take your ring camera off your front door or let the battery die? I just don't know. It seems really suspicious to me. If this timeline of events is true, it seems like the crime was premeditated. So it just kind of seems ridiculous that Herbert wouldn't think of this sooner. But, I'm not a criminal, so I guess I'll never understand the criminal mind. Furthermore, not only had Herbert created the GoFundMe, he was also listed as the beneficiary on Timothy's life insurance policy for an amount of $333,000. So it seems so odd to potentially be able to cash out that amount of money and then in the meantime try to scrounge up a few $1,000s from your friends. It just feels so obvious to me. Like Herbert is making himself look like a suspect. I just don't understand what's going on in his head. And what's even more fascinating is on August 8th of this year, two posts were made on Facebook. One from the Marion County Sheriff's Department naming Herbert Swilley as a suspect and offering a significant award to anyone with information regarding the death of Timothy Smith. And in that same day, Herbert posted a happy anniversary post on his own Facebook. The audacity, seriously. The post reads, "I just want to wish you a happy anniversary. To my very loving husband, I know you are up there looking down on us and taking care of us. You will always be in my heart and thoughts. Jordan and I will celebrate our anniversary tonight out having dinner. I wish you could come be here with us in body, because I know you are here in spirit. It would have been 8 years we've been married. To be honest, I miss you every day and wish you were here. Life isn't the same without you. I miss your smile and your loving spirit. To let you know, it's been a very hard day, because I know we would have had a great celebration. Love, Herbie." And as touching as that sentiment is, if Herbert did kill Timothy, this is truly alarming. Just the sheer gumption, I guess, or the balls you would have to go put something like that on Facebook. And on the same day as the sheriff office's post, it just feels like Herbert is baiting them a little bit, or maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. I need to see some timestamps. And you may have heard that another character was introduced in Herbert's Facebook post, and her name was also mentioned in the sheriff's posts too. So, who is this Jordan these posts are referring to? Jordan Swilley was named as another person of interest, and she is Herbert's daughter. Although she too had made some statements to the police initially back in March, throughout this investigation, she has refused to cooperate with authorities. And neither has Herbert. In fact, Herbert's attorney has stated that Herbert will only speak to police if he is granted immunity from being convicted of Timothy's murder, which I don't know if you ask for that if you're innocent. I think if you're innocent, you would want to cooperate with the police and make sure the murderer of your husband was found. But of course, that's just my opinion. However, two things could be happening here. He's wanting to pin the murder on his daughter and is trying to gain immunity before he does so because, perhaps she was an accomplice. Or maybe she was the one who committed the actual murder and he orchestrated it, but made her carry out the actual act of strangling poor Timothy. And again, only time will tell. And hopefully sooner rather than later, because it appears that immunity is off the table. Because on Friday, November 3rd, just last week, Herbert was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder and evidence tampering. Jordan is still considered a person of interest. The sheriff department released a press statement saying that they had video footage of Herbert dumping two carpets in a landfill and tampering with the Ring camera that had been on his front door. In the affidavit, an officer had written that a friend close to the couple had stated that Herbert had made quote unquote homicidal threats to Timothy before, and even shared that Timothy had just begun feeling like Herbert was a weight on him because he always had to take care of Herbert. Other friends also shared that they knew that Herbert had been violent or made violent threats towards Timothy. Two other friends had also spoken to police to share their fear of Herbert. They had heard of his threats before as well, but they were scared of what Herbert would do if they went to authorities. Herbert's due in court next month, so I'll do my best to provide an update to this case as soon as information becomes available. Please let me know down below if that's something you'd be interested in. Domestic abuse is always such a difficult subject to discuss. The dynamics between those involved or in an abusive or manipulative relationship can be really complicated. Oftentimes, victims are afraid to leave or speak up due to the threats that they've received, and I can't help but wonder if some of those dynamics are at play here. So, if you're experiencing this kind of relationship, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or go to thehotline.org. I've also included a link in the description of this video to that resource. So, what do you think of this case? And now, please remember, this is an open investigation and a highly discussed case, so please be respectful of the family and friends of Timothy who are likely still impacted by this terrible tragedy. And if you know of any information that can help in this case, please contact Detective Daniel Pinder at 352-368-3508 or the Marion County Sheriff's non-emergency number at 352-732-9111. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can also contact Crime Stoppers of Marion County at 352-368-STOP. And all of those contacts and resources can be found down below in the description of this video. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Until next time, please stay safe out there. Goodbye.